Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Welcome back to another live training event here at WPStudio. This is a very special 3-day intensive pods plugin webinar about extending WordPress. It is a public webinar, so welcome to all the new individuals who are joining us here for possibly the first time. If you're coming back to join us, welcome back. And just a few logistical things. The chat room is at wpstudio.com/chat. It'll be open during this live session, and it'll be open for Wednesday and Thursday as well. There's no handouts for today, but there will be handouts on Wednesday and Thursday. And the final thing is, yes, if you have to step away, walk the dog, walk the goat, feed the goat, take the goat to the grocery store, something like that, go ahead, you can always step away. This will be recorded and available for replay for the members in the members area and everybody else on YouTube. So all that information will go out in an email as well. So let's get started, because this whole webinar series is about extending WordPress. So most of us here probably have been working with WordPress for a while. And if you have never been in any of these WPStudio training events, we do all of the training 100% live and ready to go. Marianne, you had to put a password to get in here? Just want to make sure I'm not leaving anybody out in this. All right, well, let me just continue on that. Oh, yes. It may have been cached. It looks like it has been. Okay, cannot get to the chat room. Okay, give me 1 second here. I am going to verify that some of you have... Thank you for letting me know that you can't get to the chat room. Let me clear the cache. Okay, for those that were attempting to get in, can you now refresh wpstudio.com/chat? And can you please let me know if you can now get in? This is especially for those of you who do not have accounts at WPStudio yet. You may have to clear your cache in your browser to get there. But I have just gone ahead and cleared it from here and made sure there is no requirement of login. If you still cannot get to wpstudio.com/chat and you are not logged in, please let me know, because I don't want to go any further until we fix this and get everybody in. Okay, it still says for members only. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to try one other thing to see if it is... Okay, we'll play the Jeopardy theme music while I am testing. I'm going to do one other test here. Oh, I think I see what happened. Got it. Fixed it. Give me 3, 2, 1. Now try. Okay, you should be able to hit refresh. It should be open now to everybody. Anybody should be able to access this. It's not going to block anybody out for this. All right, well, let me continue. And then if the 2 or 3 of you who are contacting me through Zoom still have a problem, let me know, and I'll see if I can work my way through it. If anything else, if I'm still not able to do it, you can use the Zoom to ask the questions, and we'll just work from there. All right, so Here we are with WordPress. Most of you should have been working with WordPress for a while. But when we talk about moving beyond just a static web page where, sure, we've got blog posts and maybe we've got pages, going on the front end of just a very basic website. You've got your blog and then you've got your sample page and your static stuff. Again, this is just a starter WordPress website. Nothing is customized yet. It's using just a starter setting. But when we talk about extending WordPress, what that means is adding additional types of custom post types, things like post pages, but now adding some other type of content storage vehicle so that we can input specific types of content and then we can display it on the back end. Another way of extending WordPress is adding additional fields or data entry fields to the current posts or pages. A quick example would be, let's say you are building a website for yourself or for a client, and they want to do photo sharing. So what if they simply want to add to their blog post, they want to add a new blog post, and this is, a sunrise photo. Well, they can go ahead and put the content information about the photo. Maybe they add the picture of the photo that they are going to share, but that's about it. Sure, they can create their own geolocation, where this was taken, what type of camera was used to take this, but they would have to remember to put that in here. What would be easier is to create some additional meta boxes that allow them to, quote, select certain the 3 or 4 different cameras. They can put in the geolocation information into separate fields. And basically, we're extending WordPress to fit the needs of the specific solution. So that's what we're going to be dealing with today. So let's go over and talk about pods. Now there are many different ways of extending WordPress. And actually, before I go forward, let me just say one thing. Please remember, through this whole 3-day event, WordPress itself is nothing more than a pretty face on a database. It is your visual representation of the data you are storing inside a MySQL database. It's nothing more than that. I mean, yes, it is. It has a bunch of other features, but that's the core premise of this WordPress admin area. The ability to manage the stuff that is in the database. So therefore, when we talk about extending WordPress, we're looking at new ways to input additional information into the database. Because WordPress themes are the other side of the equation that are trying to extract information out of the database and display it in unique and hopefully good-looking methods. So there are a number of plugins that help you extend WordPress. I'm going to just briefly touch on them. Some of them are free, some of them have pro upgrades. But advanced custom fields is a very popular solution. It does things that are very similar to pods. It's got a pro add-on, which does cost money. It's not too much. It's like $25 per site, or for $100 you can have a developer license. And it can do a whole bunch of stuff that pods can also do. And it does some stuff that pods can't do. And it can't do some stuff that pods does do. But advanced custom fields is probably as close and equal to pods as we'll see. Now, there's also Toolset. This has been around for a while. There's things called types and views. Types and views is the ability to create custom post types, custom taxonomies, custom fields, and then the views allows you to create the templates and the views and visually represent the output on the front end. So that's another way to extend WordPress. Another way with a little bit more code is using something like metabox.io. And this allows you to add a whole bunch of fields and customize what the output or what the input into the database looks like from a WordPress admin. And then you've also got, for those of you who are WPStudio members, you've got the WPStudio framework that also adds options and meta boxes, kind of settings panels and stuff like that. But I just wanted you to know that there are more options than just Pods. Now, Pods is 100% free. It 100% backed by Matt Mullenweg, who actually helps fund this, as well as a number of other plugin developers. What you also need to know is the lead developer on Pods, Scott Kingsley Clark, is, or has been up until a week ago, the lead developer on the new Fields API that should have come into WordPress a long time ago, but that's another story. And Pods is 100% free. Advanced Custom Fields has both a free and a premium version. Toolset is, to really get it out, Toolset what you need, is a premium product. Metabox is a premium product, but does have some free elements. But that part of the reason why we are going to be talking about Pods is, A, it's 100% free. Everybody can get started, and it's got a great user interface to extend WordPress. All right, enough about talking about all the different products that are out there and brief comparison. So when we are dealing with Pods, Pods takes the approach of saying we are going to extend the capability of any type of current custom post type or any type of post type, as well as allow you to create brand new, non-existing post types. Now, if let's say you're fairly new to WordPress, or you have not been around and seen the evolution of the WordPress code base, one of the things to keep in the back of your mind is that everything in WordPress is a post. Why is that important? Most WordPress users now understand that when you set up a WordPress website and you're looking at the permalinks, this used to be the default permalink, where every piece of content, every entity of content that would be displayed on the front end, whether it's a page, it's a post, it's an archive, it's a front page, anything like this, has its own unique identifier, and that's called a post ID. That's where the original plain URL system in WordPress is a question mark, P equals the post ID number. That's what that means. It's a post equals 123. Every single, there is not, this is all the questions asked, is there the same post ID for pages and posts? Like, is there a post 1 and a pages 1? No, it's actually, there's a post 1, there's a pages 3, it keeps iterating, and the more times you not only create a piece of content, you update a piece of content, WordPress auto saves the piece of content, you delete a piece of content, those IDs keep iterating. So that's why we now have the better looking permalinks, so that we hide the look of post ID. But that little rabbit trail of conversation is a historical part of WordPress, but it also goes to show that everything is a post. So when we talk about extending WordPress using Pods, of creating new post types or extending new post types, everything is a post. Whether it's a page, whether it's a category, whether it is a media upload file, they all get their own post ID. It's the way WordPress works. It's one of the core fundamental truths about WordPress. Okay, so Pods allows us, through an easy-to-use interface, to create content types. Marianne, not if I have anything to do with it. Not that anybody listens to me. Okay, so I'm going to paint a picture of where we're going with these 3 days of training. We're going to be building a website for a restaurant or some type of business that has a front end that is available to public and a back end which is available to the employees. So we're going to need to create a post type that would be news. And in that news, we would be able to share things for the public and share things for the employees. We're going to need to create an employee work list so you can actually log into the employee area and see when you work, which shift you're supposed to come in. And then we're going to also create a section that will use conditional logic to figure out where it needs to place certain types of content, as well as create new global taxonomies that may make our life even easier to handle a front end and a back end type of solution. So that's what we're doing. So let's start with the very basic type of custom post type. Now we're going to have blog posts and we're going to have regular pages on our website, but we want to treat news articles as different than blog posts because, a lot of times we may want to change some of the features of all that stuff. And yes, Ron, you are now chatting. So let's create our first custom post type called news items. So let's do news and news. Now, when we create a custom post type, we have a singular label and a plural label. Keep in the back of your mind, creating a custom post type can be done in straight code. You can do it in a plugin or do it in your functions.php file of a theme. But with this creating a new content type, this form will basically fill out all the features that you need. Now, I just realized that Lorraine had a question earlier that I missed. Can Pods exist on its own without WordPress? No. Pods extends WordPress and requires WordPress to actually work since it's a WordPress plugin. But what I'm going to also point out, and maybe we will address it on Thursday, WordPress and Pods can be handled with a complete separate website, and on Thursday we'll deal with the REST API, so we could actually pull content from Pods and WordPress to a completely other website that doesn't have WordPress. So there's some cool stuff that we can do with that. All right. So we're going to create a custom post type. Again, you can choose whether it's posts or pages, like category tags, or a custom settings page. So let's go ahead and hit next. At this point, we actually have our custom post type created. We're going to come back to the manage fields, and there's a lot going on. REST API stuff we'll deal with on Thursday. Auto templating options we'll deal with on Wednesday. Where we're going to be focusing our attention is over here on the labels, advanced UI, advanced options. If you've never worked with Pods before, it is going to be a good habit that anytime you make changes, save the pod. Because when we move back and forth between the tabs, we may forget that we changed something and we leave this page. And if you leave this page without saving the pod, all the changes that you have done do not get saved into the database. So by doing that first page, where we created a news thing, you're going to actually see that, hey, this looks like a regular post. So we have a news, and we have the title, and we have a content. That's all we have. We can now start typing in news, and it's not stored in the posts area. Clients love this. It allows you to begin to give them input solutions that fit their website, not us try and shoehorn their concepts into how WordPress posts and pages work. So now what we're going to do is take a look at the labels. By default, if you don't do any changes, everything that you see here on the left-hand side is what the user is going to see in the admin area. So see this add new news. That kind of seems, it seems weird. New news. And so maybe our client isn't going to like that. So let's go over here and say, instead of doing add new news, add news post, or add news release. So it's something completely different, doesn't use the word post, doesn't do anything like that. We're going to save this pod, which now means when we go over here to our this, it now says add news release. So with pods, we can update all the labels that you would see all throughout the WordPress admin, so that when they're updating things, setting a featured image, maybe you don't want featured image. Maybe you want to do things like required image for release. Set release, set item graphic. Remove graphic. Remove key graphic. Use as release image. We put together a whole bunch of things, change it from the default, save that pod, and now when we are sitting here, now again, it's not going to show. I'm going to show you why. Because we're not supporting featured images yet, which is in the next part we're going to get to. So by default, in the advanced options, when you create a new custom post type in here, that one of the parameters of creating a custom post type is to say that this post type is going to support things that already exist in WordPress. They will always support the title and the editor. A rule of thumb with using pods, don't ever get rid of the title. Always use that, even if you don't display it on the front end of the theme. Because the title is a key element in most pod sites. You can get rid of it if you want. If you absolutely have to, you can get rid of it. But you're going to run into more trouble than it's worth if you get rid of that. At least that's what I've found after using pods for a long time. So you can also choose whether or not to have the author. We want the featured images because we've updated that code, that text. You can choose whether you're going to use an excerpt or custom fields. These are all things that you would normally find on posts or pages. So before we leave this section and save the advanced options, I'm just going to briefly walk through. You can set up everything, whether it's going to be public, and public meaning accessible to everybody, and queryable would be included in a WordPress search box or be able to be run in a query that is going to the database, WP query that pulls things out, includes it into the WordPress loop, which is the way we display the content. Now you can also choose to exclude it from the search engine of the WordPress search engine. That's fine. If you want to use the user capabilities, this is maybe a little bit deeper than many of you have gotten into before. I encourage you to watch some of our WordPress developer camps that we do here at WPStudio, where we talk about roles and capabilities and how to manage which user can access which items in WordPress. We can also choose to enable an archive page, which is always a good type of thing. If you do not override the page slug, it's simply going to take the slug of the actual custom post type, which is news, to display the archive page. The rewrite, basically, I'm going to turn that off right now. The rewrite would simply rewrite the URL if we want to change the way the slug appears. Again, I'm not going to do that for this specific thing, so we can turn that off. The default status, you can choose when somebody hits publish. What if we want it to go straight to publish when somebody sets it up? You can do that. You can have all default statuses. So let's just keep going on. We're going to save this because this is the big thing that we wanted. We wanted to add featured images. So let's go ahead and save that pod, and let's jump back over to our add news release. When we refresh, you're going to see that our custom post type has now added the featured image. But look, it has different instructional text. Required image for release. Set the image graphic. We load it up. Required image for release. I don't think I have any images up here. But if you did, then we could see set item graphic. All those things give you immense flexibility, see with these labels, to customize the solution for the client or for your website. Again, we haven't had to touch a line of code yet. All this you could do in code, but Pods allows you to do something much easier. Now, before we go on to the fields, the admin UI has 2 or 3 sections that I think everybody needs to deal with. Because by default, every custom post type is going to have this default WordPress, thumbtack pin next to it as an icon. Doesn't always look as great. Plus, it may be in the wrong position on the admin dashboard. So we can change all of this in the admin UI. The first one is this menu icon. Now, by default, there are 2 different ways, not by default, but in Pods, there are 2 very unique ways that we can add icons. The first one is because WordPress already loads dash icons. Dash icons are just a whole bunch of icons that are already included, font icons that are included in in WordPress. They're already enqueued, and the script and everything is there. All we need to know is the name of the dash icon that we're using. So we can go find something that maybe, because this is going to be like news events at a restaurant. So let's go ahead and click the tickets. So I can now grab the title, copy it, come back over here, and simply paste that in there. I can save the pod, and you're going to immediately see that the news now has the icon tickets. Now, it doesn't stop here. You can also use any type of URL that goes directly to an icon that you have loaded. Maybe you're storing it on some other web server. Maybe you're storing it in a theme folder. Maybe you've uploaded it to the server. Wherever you put it, you can simply put the URL of that image, and that icon, again, has to be the right size, but then that icon can be loaded in directly in here. The final thing, and if you actually look at this, it's really hard to see, but Pods uses something called a magic tag. We'll see a lot more of it tomorrow. But magic tags are a short code system that represents either fields that exist in Pods, different fields of data, or locations. There is a magic tag for your current theme. And so if you have your theme, you could do a magic tag template URL. So you run that template URL, and then simply, you can actually see if you hover over this, you're going to see what it is. So we would actually, bear with me 1 second, make sure I need the braces around this because that's the way it tells it this is a magic tag. And then I could do icons muffin.png. So this would be in my active themes folder, whatever WordPress theme I'm using. There's a folder inside of that icons and a folder or an image called muffins.png. So it will figure out where it is, whether it's the parent theme or child theme. Now, John in New Jersey, can you use Font Awesome? Absolutely. Yes, you can. You have to have enabled Font Awesome, whether you've queued it into your list of scripts or fonts that you are loading, and it has to load into the admin, not the front end. Many plugins that load Font Awesome for you only load it to the front end, to the theme area. You have to queue it into the admin area in order to use it here. So at which point, if you were already loading Font Awesome, you would simply put the Font Awesome name of whatever icon that you're using and it would work. Okay, and then the final thing is there is a menu position. If you didn't know this, starting at 0, going all the way to infinite number, there is a order of like 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and then spaces have like 45. And as you keep going up the number, those are the positions of each of the items in the admin menu. So you can actually move the position by simply saying, all right, let's go ahead and put this at 250. So if we save the pod, put it at 250, now our names, see Loop Studio and Pod's admin, are probably in the 999 or something. So now news shows up down here. So we can actually move it around. The final bit in the admin UI is this parent menu. Let's get rid of this. The parent menu allows us to bury the news stuff under another custom post type or another area. So what if we wanted to put the news under pages? So this is how we find it. If you go to the pages list, you will actually see this. After the WP admin, you will see an edit.php post type equals page. You can take the ending of the URL that you see here, come back to the parent menu, and that is actually the parent menu ID, the location, and then when we save this, we now, if we go to our pages, guess what? Our news now shows up under here. So now you can now manage a whole bunch of different custom post types. You can put them all in under a certain folder or in an admin menu area. It makes managing all this much easier. But I'm going to go ahead and we're going to keep them as unique. Wait, 1 second. Let me refresh because it wasn't showing the right one. Okay, so let's get rid of this. All right, so we have our pod, our custom post type created. It's ready for us to start adding news items. But we want to do more than this because we want to be able to, sure, we got some news, we've got some updated, we've got a graphic here, but we also want to be able to, I may be making up some stuff here. We're going to go ahead and put who is the manager of the restaurant. And let's say we have news items and we own 3 different restaurants. So we need to be able to tell them which restaurant we're going to. So let's go ahead and we're going to add a few fields. So our first field, let's add a, let's do this, current manager. It's going to create a field. I can choose any type of field, whether it's a plain text field, website, phone number, email. There's a reason why there's all these different types of fields, is because they already have been escaped in the proper way. They've been formatted. They provide the formatting so that it fits within the certain type of field type, because we should all know that phone numbers should be formatted differently than emails, and numbers should be treated differently than plain text. So that's why we have different types of fields. So let's go ahead and save this. We'll deal with the other advanced things later. So we're going to save that field. Let's actually also put in a store location. We're just going to leave them as plain text. We're going to do some other cool things here in just a moment. All right, so there's a store location, and let's leave that as is for just now. Okay, so now we have our pod that has 2 additional fields. Let me show you what that looks like. Because we have additional fields, guess what? Now we have additional fields that will fill out, and we can start adding our current manager, store location, and that's great. But this is horrible for a client, because how many of you have ever worked with clients and you give them an empty space in which to type, and they know they need to put specific information, but somebody either misspells it, and now you have 2 different types of store locations because somebody misspelled, so therefore it's not exactly the same store location, or a manager's name has an uppercase or a space in the wrong location, and now it's treated as 2 different managers because it's 2 different data types, input types. So what we want to do is we want to handle this by either providing a drop-down that will be auto-filled from another field, or auto-complete, so if they start typing, it will help them find the exact thing they're looking for. All right, so we're about ready to see where I say the real stuff, the real power of pods comes in. And Marianne, can we make an upload field to a specific path? Yes, we will deal with that, but it'll be tomorrow because we're going to be dealing with employees tomorrow, and the employees will upload pictures and stuff like that. Okay, so we need to create some additional pods. We're going to add new. This next pod we are going to create is managers. Now, with this manager, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create it as a custom post type. We're going to call it managers. And so now we have a manager. Let's go to the advanced options. We're going to untrack the editor because we don't need that. We're just going to leave the titles. And for what we're doing today, I'm going to leave the fields empty. We're going to come back tomorrow and add additional things into here for the manager. But now that we've created this, and you can actually see our manager here, if we add this, we see the title. When we're dealing with the title, you're going to notice that we cannot change this thing, enter title here. The reason, so we're actually running into an issue here because we're using the default title thing. Well, that's great, but what we really want is something that says manager's name, manager's title. So let's go back over here to our fields. Oh, sorry, we need to be over in the managers custom post type. So we're going to create a field. Add 2 fields. Manager name, plain text, and manager title. Save this. Now, for this specific thing, again, everything in WordPress and code, there's always a best practice, but you're going to come into situations where maybe you don't want to follow it or you want to break the methodology. This is one of them. And the breaking of the methodology that we're looking at is I am actually going to turn off the title support. Because I'm keeping this as a straight management of data. This is simply a data entry solution. So all I'm trying to do is have a manager name, manager title. Now I'm going to show you something, and there's a reason why. Bob Bobertson, head honcho, publish. Okay, so it looks great here. We can actually see Bob Robertson, who is the head honcho. But when we look at all managers, it just simply says auto draft. It's because we don't have a title field, and therefore we'll use a plugin on Thursday that will adjust this so that it won't show the title in the all managers. We'll show different fields. Does that make sense? So part of the reason why, if you remove that title, all the listing of your posts, your pages, your everything won't show anything. You won't be able to know what that is. So we'll have to use another plugin that will go in and change how it displays the content in the list. But because what we're doing is something fairly easy, we are simply grabbing our manager name, head honcho. Now, let's go back. Let's make one other thing. We want to create another pod before we go back to the original news item. And this new pod is called location. Locations. Because these are the different stores. And we will begin. Again, I'm not going to. We can add the editor later. We're going to come back over here to the fields, and let's call store address. And we can come over here. We can see all the different types of things. Basically, because the store address is a little bit more than this. Than a plain text, we may want either a plain paragraph text, just so that it gives us more than just one line. Then we'll just go through here and add a store website, because maybe they have different websites or different URLs that they're using for each of their stores. Store phone. Go ahead and select the phone. And we'll just leave this as is. Now I'm going to use the title for our location. We're just going to use the title as is, and that's going to be the title of the store or the location name of the location, and it'll make it easy. So let's call this one Bob's Muffins Boston. And then I'm not going to fill this stuff out just yet. Let's add a new location. Bob's Muffins, New York. Okay, so we got two different stores here. So now that we have a location custom post type and a manager custom post type, now notice I'm not going to spend time re-showing you things on setting up the icons and everything else that you've seen me do already, because you can just reproduce that either by watching again. Okay, so let's go back to let me close this one, and let's go back to our edit the pod. So now we're going to go back to our news pod. So now we come back to, again, the power of pods and the relationships. We're going to edit this field for the custom manager. And now instead, we are going to say the relationship, we want it to relate to another custom post type, or we could have it relate to all sorts of things. So I want it to relate to the manager. Now, I don't have a related field yet. We'll fix this, but I just want to update this and save it. Let's do the same thing for our store location. Create a relationship. Let's add to the location, no related fields. You're going to see why. Remember, one of these, the location, has a title. The current manager does not have a title. So we're saving this. All right, so now let's go back to our news, add new, and you're going to see down here we have store location. Ah, that looks good. They can pick that. Oh, wait a minute. Current manager is not connecting. It just says that auto draft. It's trying to give me the title. So at this point, we can go edit the pod, and let's create in the managers area a relational field that goes back from the name. So from here, we can create it as a relationship to, see, I'm going to go back over here to our, news, current manager. That is the related field. So it's a bi-directional, the manager of that store, it's going to be able to handle going back and forth. So when we're creating a new location or a manager, we get to assign them to either a new store or something else like that. It's a way that you can actually set bi-directional fields. It's very unique to pods. All right. So in our news release, we now have, we can put our title, we can put our news release, we can choose information, we can choose to set it as a certain thing, or as some of you have said, is like, what if Bob's Muffins, just the news release we are doing is we're going to create a new, watch this, new San Francisco store opening. Muffins for all. So, well, actually, let me just do this. Instead, we're going to add an, oh, can't do that. Hold on. Because I messed that up, I wanted to add new here. Let me publish this just so I can get it to refresh. Okay, see how there's an add new? But I come in here and it's going to open up the location so I could start doing Bob's Muffins, San Francisco, and then I can fill in all the details of the store. So I don't have to go back to the store area to load that in. There's now the ability for me to add new directly in here. And so who's the manager? Whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. My bidirectional is broken. So I actually directed it to the wrong one. So it actually directed to the news item when I actually wanted to direct it to a certain field. So I'll fix that. But again, we'd be able to dynamically add in managers that may not exist because we've just hired them. So rather than going through and doing it all there, this makes it easier for your client or you to simply fill out information. If you have to add new fields that already have other custom post types managing it, you can do the add new and you're set. So I just wanted to quick show you that. All right. So here in the pods, there's one other thing that we need to, actually there's two quick ones that we need to make before we end here in about 10 minutes. So there's two additional ones. So we are going to create another custom post type and we'll call this our staff. And staff will be plural as well. We're going to leave everything as we need. Staff is going to be able to have additional settings here in just a moment. So now let's go ahead and create a different one, but this time we're going to create a taxonomy. A lot of people wonder, what does a taxonomy mean? Basically, it is simply a way of organizing items or classifying items under something else. I like to think of taxonomies as nothing more than folders in your file folder, in your file cabinet. A taxonomy will, everything inside that relates to that specific taxonomy, that identifier. It's a great way to create quick filters when we create queries for how we're going to display stuff on the front end. So if we have something for a public side, this will allow us to any of our content, we can place it on the front end or on the back end. Now, because it's a taxonomy, I don't need anything else, but what I'm now going to do is associate this public side with locations and news. I don't need it to show up for managers or staff or anything else because the public side is there. So let's save this pod. And again, now it's saving a taxonomy. And let's quick go back and look at the news. When we add a news, notice how now I have a public side. And again, the public side is going to have things like featured. It's kind of like tags and categories. And let's also say that this one is going to be a promotion. So we got featured and promotion. So if we have great news, woo, I'm just putting something out there so it publishes. So now going forward, on our public side, we can actually tag certain things. Maybe we create a taxonomy for the private side so that, or the customers or the employee side, so that now we can start filtering. Why is this important? Is in our theme, when we go to display things, it can be very easy, rather than to write all sorts of conditional logic and, okay, only show the blog posts that go here, and if that, now we can simply say, if whatever post you're getting has the taxonomy promotion, we're going to show it in the promotion slider. It makes it very simple for us to one check, uncheck, to add things, manage things in specific sections on the public side of the face of the theme. So using taxonomies as a way for your end user to manage what displays can be a really easy thing, rather than going on and having them update certain sliders to only include post ID 7, 12, 49, 57. A lot of things that many of those sliders require. Now we can simply say, just show me all the items that have promotion. And again, we can also see that we have the public side. We can see a number of the taxonomies that we have going on here. All right, so we've got a few other taxonomies that we need to deal with. And we'll make it very simple. And in this one, we're going to create a taxonomy, add new, create a taxonomy. We're going to add one other thing that makes pods very unique. Work schedule. Work schedule. Now, we're going to attach this work schedule to staff. I guess we could do it to managers if we wanted to. So we're going to attach those, and now we're going to add two other fields. We're going to have a checkbox, which allows a yes or no, and our label is going to be noon to 5 p.m. and noon shift. I'm just making it so that this is be what we'll pull in. Is it noon shift? So save. And now we're going to add a 5 p.m. to close. 5 p.m. to close. Evening shift. And it's going to be a checkbox. Okay, so now what we've done, save this pod. In our staff, in our work schedule, when we create items, notice how there is additional fields here. We can have a Monday. Okay, it's checked there. So we can actually add certain things. So if it's Monday, again, we'll be able to update these on Wednesday. Tuesday is a close. So we can actually go through this whole thing, and now, again, you can't see the fact that there is a 5 p.m. to close or a noon to 5. We'll be able to create all these taxonomies so that when we create staff, we can then assign them to work schedules. We'll be able to adjust a few of these to make it, you can choose which shift it is on that day. But by adding in these additional fields, when we go to be able to display it on the employee side of the website, it'll be so simple for us to simply filter, do you have this checked? Okay, show all those employees that have this checked for Tuesday. Show all the employees that have this checked for Monday. And without us having to do anything else, we can do a lot more advanced displaying of who's showing up for work and who's not. Kind of the work schedule. So what we've done today is we've already created 4 different custom post types. We've interlinked a few of them because they're going to relate to each other. We've created these additional taxonomies. And Sherry, let me see. I've got 2 minutes before I actually have a hard stop. So let me jump back over there. Great question on that bidirectional. So let's go back to the edit the pod. And so in the bidirectional, I actually have to turn something else on. We need to go to components. The reason why we're doing this is it's actually an advanced relationship. We're relating to something much deeper than just the post because we're trying to relate to a specific field. So let's go back. I just turned that on. The components are a section in pods that have a whole bunch of items. So let's now go edit our pod. And I believe we did the... Was it the managers? Yes. So we've got our manager. Bidirectional C is trying to get the news post type. We're going to change, not the bidirectional, we're going to change the relationship to, all right, let's see here. Let me pull this up. Post type, no, that's going to be the full thing. I'm in the manager. Hold on one second. Okay, it's actually not going to do how I wanted it to do. So let's not do this relationship because that was going to get a little too complex for this. Let me turn this off. It's a plain text. I'm not going to be able to pull this up because we haven't used the title. On Thursday, we will add the code because we can filter. Let me show you where we're going to filter. Let me update the field. So the problem I just ran into is here in the managers area, when we try and view it, because we don't have a title, I can't filter this for the bidirectional field to show up. Instead of auto draft, we want it to show up. So therefore, on Thursday, we will have a function, which is a filter we'll add to the our themes functions.php file, which will run a filter for this and change this to filter it over. There's actually a hook in pods that will allow us to change that. Okay, because I have a hard stop, we will see everybody back. I'm not going to touch this site. We'll be able to pick up right where we left off. Our main goal is now to also start looking at templates, because we need to start creating the front end of our website, displaying those themes, the news items, both on the front and the back. Use the default pods, taxonomies to filter in the if conditional logic statements. And that's what we're going to be doing tomorrow, is taking a lot of the content, the structure content that we created today, and putting it on the front end. And we'll do 2 or 3 different ways of showing it. So I will see everybody back at noon tomorrow, and you should be receiving an email as well. I will be uploading this and making it available both to members and on YouTube, probably within an hour or so, and you can rewatch and prepare for tomorrow. So take care, everybody. Have a great rest of the day, and hopefully I'll see you back tomorrow as we dive deeper down the rabbit trail.